Hi, and welcome back to the Cervera newsroom here in sunny Miami. It is Monday, April 27th, 2020. I'm Omar DeWin, Communications Executive here at Cervera Real Estate, live in the Cervera newsroom with a special Why Miami COVID-19 edition conversation featuring our managing partner, Alicia Cervera Lamadrid, and our President of Development Sales, Jesse Ottley. They'll be on in just a second for a riveting Q&A on how to look at Miami, our market, and the future in this current climate. So hope you enjoy the conversation. See you soon.
Thank you, Omar. It's a pleasure to be here. And today we'll be speaking with Alicia Cervera Jr., the managing partner, who's going to share with us some ideas and thoughts on how she sees the current situation. And from Cervera Real Estate, we're seeing a lot of questions from our buyers overseas, from our buyers locally, from our buyers in the Northeast. And so we wanted to sit and speak with Alicia and share some of her thoughts. So today we're going to discuss sort of where we are and where we're going in this process, and also discuss a plan on how we can start to open up and get back to work again. So Alicia, welcome and thank you for being here.
Hey Jess, how are you? Nice seeing you in the other room. I've missed you. So here we are.
Nice to put on a suit and come back and spend some time talking about some business. I know we've all been very busy, but we've been under lockdown now for 4 weeks, I guess, right? And there's some talk about reopening, and we'll get to that in a second, but I wanted to start from the beginning and talk about sort of how the situation was handled, because I think how we handle the situation determines how we come out of it, right? And then frankly, how well we are prepared for the next crisis, whatever that might be. So, you know, with those buyers from all over the world, Alicia, can you give us a sense of how Miami is adjusting to the current situation? And, you know, you had mentioned the other day that we should have and could have been a hotspot, but we sort of avoided that. So give us some thoughts on that.
We did. I think that that's quite right, that when you look at the descriptions of what causes a hotspot, we kind of tick every box, right? We have a major international airport. We have a major international seaport. We're the biggest passenger port in the country, and I think maybe in the world. We have a huge tourist industry. And Miami's a very open and welcoming city. And you know, for anybody who's been here for more than a second, everybody knows we like to hug and kiss a lot, right? So on every level, we should have been a hotspot. However, gratefully, we have, I think, dodged that bullet, and things continue to be done very, very well. I believe that our leadership has done an incredible job. From the top down, really. If you start with our senators in Washington, D.C., we were lucky that Scott had been in the medical business, so he understood it. He's also a military man. He's also a Republican, which I'm sure didn't hurt right now. And so these guys, along with DeSantis, our governor, who's also a Republican, so they're allies, also a Navy guy, so they have the protocols down, and also in charge of a state that's used to dealing with emergency situations, because we have to have a very firm emergency plan that can be executed quickly in the event of a storm. So these guys acted very much with decisiveness in getting ahead of it and not waiting until we had a problem in Miami to start procuring the material, procuring the equipment, starting to cancel unnecessary medical procedures, making sure that our systems were not strained. And of course, especially in Dade County, in southeastern Florida, we're blessed with a very robust medical center, because our medical capacities are not calculated based on the local population, but rather on a population that serves the Caribbean, South and Central America. It's very much a regional medical center, if you will. So to begin with, we have overcapacity when all of the tourists disappear from our marketplace. So I think that we as individuals also stood up very quickly. And of course, we had the tragic experience in New York that also served as a very big reminder of what happens if you don't act quickly, if you don't act decisively, and if you don't proceed with an air of caution, if you will. So that as the citizens of Miami, I think, immediately moved to doing what we needed to do, even before the stay in place orders came down, we for 40 days, we've already been working remotely to a great extent. And of course, we in particular at Cervera Real Estate, in great measure thanks to you, have been working remotely for such a long time, doing presentations overseas with our clients that don't live in the United States and that don't live in Miami, in the Northeast and other places in the country, with Zoom presentations and with webinars and with other things that don't require a face-to-face meeting. So I think we were acutely prepared to do it and started doing it immediately, and unafraid of embracing that challenge, and also with a community that's very collaborative, because I think that our real estate community in Florida, and with a great leadership of Teresa Kinney and the Miami Board of Realtors, and our state leadership as well, are very collaborative. We have very clear guidelines, and also responded very quickly to help each other get through this, put in some rules that kind of made a level playing field so that everybody started responding in a responsible fashion, exchanging information, exchanging best practices. And here we are, gratefully not facing a total dire situation, but rather looking to how do we open up again.
Great. And I think we've always spoken, and when we travel and we talk to our clients internationally and in the North as well, we're all speaking about Miami and what an incredible city in the whole tri-state sector of Florida, right? So share with me some thoughts about the things that sort of have pulled us through this. And I think the same sort of things that will keep us moving forward and even accelerating. Things about the location. I know we've spoken about some of the climate and our natural environment, and obviously our clean economic engine. So share with me some thoughts on that, Alicia.
Well, and I mean, I guess it starts with the city really being sandwiched between two national parks. Very few cities in the world can say that, because we have the Everglades to the west, and we have Biscayne Bay and the Atlantic Ocean to the east. So we do start with a very clean environment, which of course is just by definition healthier, and with clean industry. So our industry doesn't add to the pollution at all. We have a very good quality of air, we have great quality of light, and we have a lot of open space. And it's a lifestyle that lends itself to that. So things that are showing to help stay off this virus, like having airflow, open your windows, don't have the recirculated air, is something that we do very organically in this town. And I also think that we have tremendous ingenuity. This is a town of immigrants. We can all remember arriving here from somewhere, and it might have been outside of the country, it might have been from within the country, but somehow, some way we remember arriving. And that sense of arriving comes with a motivation that is in many ways unique to people that have the inner strength and the wherewithal to say, you know what, I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna go for whatever reason. Either because life has given me no choice and we're being attacked by a communist regime that leaves us no option, or because I think there's a better, brighter future somewhere else, but I'm going to get up and I'm going to go. So that entrepreneurship, that drive that has made Miami really the greatest city, contemporary city, in my opinion, in the world, because we've surged so quickly, has come from that incredible energy that we, the people of Miami, bring to the city, and in fact to the Southeast in general. And that of course has created a new city, a modern city with new and modern infrastructure. So we're lucky in many ways. We don't have an underground, we have an overground. So when you go into our rapid transit, it's open, there's light, you're not waiting inside a tunnel, you're waiting literally on a breezeway. So there's just things that are gifts that God has given the city, because we didn't plan it that way because we knew anything was coming. We planned it that way because it was either that or take your scuba gear when you went down under the water table. But they've worked in our favor. And as a modern city, we've learned from other cities, not only in design and attracting the greatest architects, et cetera, in the world, but also how we can make our infrastructure better, and we can be proactive and attacking those threats that will come to the city and that are coming to the world over time, getting more prepared and preparing our infrastructure not only for this, but other threats that were already in the making and that may come in the future.
I think that's a great point. Miami is such a resilient city. I know, a handful of decades of years ago, we were the most exposed city in the world to wind because of the hurricanes, right? And now we're the most wind resilient city in the world. And we're addressing those same things, as you said, with sea level rise. And now this is a whole nother category that I'm sure as a city with the entrepreneurs and the mindset and the brain dump that we have in the city that will also find our way out of this. You've said on a couple of occasions, which I like, it's sort of the city that the rest of America looks to and the rest of America will look like in the years to come. You want to share some thoughts on that?
Well, I think that there's been a lot of pain in trying to become a more open society. And a lot of that has come by laws and by force and by imposing things on people. In Miami, we've been very blessed that we've done that organically. I always say that in Miami, the only thing that matters when you get here is that you are going to add something. And that something may be a multi-million-dollar company. It may be a special skill. It may be a smile when you walk down the street. But as long as you're adding something, you're welcomed. And nobody really cares where you're from, what language you speak, what religion you are, what color you are. None of that matters as long as you come in with a positive attitude and you want to do something great. And in fact, if you have a very cookie cutter event, we consider it kind of boring, right? We got to mix it up. Our cookies all look different. So we can't have only one type of cookie at a dinner party.
Right. So bringing it back to real estate, because we have a lot of our buyers and our investors and our brokers and realtors around the world that are sharing with us and sharing their thoughts. How has the COVID-19 impacted the real estate sector, Alicia? I know that with Cervera Real Estate, obviously we are a full service real estate company that address both general real estate and pre-construction development. So, some people talk about the impact of this as similar to the 2008 financial crisis or the 9/11 in 2001. So give us some thoughts on that.
I think that it's extremely different from the 2008-2009 financial crisis, because when we got into that crisis, we had financial systems that were fundamentally broken. We were in an economy that was in a lot of trouble, and it was difficult to see how, given those structures, we were going to work our way out of that situation without having a major restructuring of the entire financial systems, which was in fact what happened in many, many ways. 9/11, on the other hand, we had a nice economy that was chugging along and life was just fine. And all of a sudden we got hit by this 2x4, which was a terrorist attack that was horrendous. Everything came to a screeching halt instantly, because this was kind of phased into a halt. That was like, it was go and then stop. And it was like a complete shock, because we didn't know if the whole country was under attack. And most of us were scrambling to find our children and our loved ones to make sure that at least if we were attacked, we'd be together. When that passed and the planes literally got back into the air, which we're all looking forward to our planes getting back into the air now, then the economy was able to come back and start recovering and functioning very quickly. Now, in this case, that's what we had. We had a very strong economy going into this situation. We had, as you know, the lowest unemployment that anybody could remember, and that unemployment rate was low across all categories. We had salaries going up. We had the country in a very solid economic place, and particularly Florida was booming, and Southeast Florida and Miami was super booming, because we also have a very positive infrastructure in our financial tax structure that makes it very beneficial for our state and for our city. So in fact, we had some of the biggest entrepreneurs in the United States moving down to Florida, to Miami and to Miami Beach. Barry Sternlicht was today speaking about how we need to open again, how he transferred his whole company here and is decided to do that because of the favorable conditions we have in Florida. And here he is. So we have a very good base here to keep going. And I think that at the end of all of this episode, we are going to be evaluated on how we performed and how we reacted and how our states and our cities reacted and performed. We are very blessed to live in the United States of America that has such tremendous resources, and that our federal government moved so quickly, and that there was this incredible partnership between the government and the private sector, where all of the kings and queens of the financial private sector came together to stand behind and next to the President of the United States, whether they love him or hate him, or Democrats, Republicans, didn't matter. Because we saw many of them who are very big critics stand beside the president and said, America first, America's people first, America's health first. And we really saw capitalism at its finest, when all of these companies came together to start mass producing what we needed to keep the company moving forward. And the federal government stepped up and delivered the assistance that we as independent citizens have paid for our whole lives through our taxes. Whether you're making $1 or $1 billion in the United States, everybody pays taxes. And so we're paying our taxes. And if ever there was a question as to whether the system worked or not, here there's proof, because it's coming back to us. So I think that particularly in Miami and the Southeast and Fort Lauderdale and Broward, in Palm Beach, we're going to see a very, very interesting recovery. We're going to see a lot of people that were thinking about maybe making a move, that were thinking, well, my kids are in school, but guess what? They're not in school now. Or we're thinking, well, what am I going to do with my employees? Well, the employees may be very ready to move now. And this kind of pause has created a good opportunity to plan that transition that people were already thinking about. So we were already in a very interesting upward trajectory, which I think when we get behind this, we're going to see an acceleration of that trajectory. And we're going to see a very, very good recovery. Now, of course, nothing is going to be instantaneous, but I think that as Miami has often led in recoveries in this country, we're going to lead this time as well.
And not to forget the interest rate environment we're in, right? The fact that as we came into this, we were in one of the lowest interest rate environments that we've ever been in. And rates have gone down even in the last month since we've been going through this. So that sets us up for a good comeback.
Absolutely. We were just discussing that, and you were telling me that for every 1% of interest rate that drops, you have 11% more buying power. So the example of a $300,000 a unit, if you could afford 300, 2 months ago, now you can afford 330. So it's a big differential. And I think that people are going to capitalize on that.
So speaking of that, Alicia, of how the companies are being run now, have you made any changes to the way that you're running the company? Obviously, we're doing different things on the development division. You want to share a little thoughts on what we're doing differently? And frankly, will those changes continue into the new era post-COVID-19?
So I think a lot of the changes we made are going to stay with us because, quite frankly, I think they've made us more efficient. They've made us better communicators on both sides of this equation, right? Because I think that, you know how adverse I was to using almost any machine because I'm such a people person. Well, the only way to connect with people these days has been through machines. So I've had to get a lot better at it. So my message to everyone is, if I can do it, trust me, all of you can do it because
you're doing great, Alicia.
Certainly not my strength. But what it showed me is that I could do it. So I think that for people that were adverse to computers, and maybe for people that are a little older, they've had to engage in them, and it's given them a whole new platform to communicate. And I think for the younger generation that perhaps didn't fully embrace the need to go out and embrace and the need to have more personalized contact, I think that this is really making them wonder and value much more that part of their lives that maybe they took so much for granted because they were born into a world that was much more free with interpersonal contact. It was easy to go out. It was easy to meet your friends. It was easy. And when things are easy, sometimes you don't value them as much. Mm-hmm. But now all of a sudden, when this whole generation has been stripped of that, I think there's going to be a higher value placed on that. So somewhere in the middle, I think that this may lead us to be much more connected because both sides are going to meet in the middle, using more what's available and valuing more what perhaps was undervalued. I think that moving forward, and right now, we've certainly stepped up all of our virtual presentations and all of our virtual outreach and the Zoom presentations. I was saying that I want to quantify how many people we've presented to, because I think we're well over 1,000, and maybe we're into the multiple thousands at this point, because it's been a very, very assertive campaign. And we're yielding results, because when the first 3 weeks were excruciatingly painful, we have some deal flow going now. And I think that deal flow is going to continue to build. And for those people who remain proactive and engaged and in contact, they're going to see the benefits. So I think that we're going to meet more in the middle, Jesse. I think that human contact is going to be valued even more. I think the people that are willing to come out and to say hello and to be there in person and to have that emotional contact with other people are going to be more and more important, because having lost a lot of that, I think it becomes that much more significant.
And I think, a lot of our buyers obviously rely on data and information, which is so important, but that local expertise, that knowledge, that growing up with this city, that watching the city change, knowing the pulse of this city is going to become so important moving forward, and that'll be a significant
And
shift.
I think something that's very, very important is that data has become easy to get. There's so much data out there that it can be very overwhelming. The real challenge now is how to interpret that data, how to take all of this information and make sense out of it. And to do that is when it's really important to have a local person, boots on the ground, someone that you trust, someone that you connect with to tell you, hey, this is what that means. And this is how it should play out. So I think that that's super important to remember, that before, he who had the data was king. Now, she who can interpret the data is queen. Just to split it up, because we don't want to make them all kings.
So let's talk a little bit about the reopening, right? And getting back to business. As I said when we started, we've all been in lockdown. We've been behaving ourselves. I think the great news out of that is that it shows that it's worked, right? That these graphs and charts that they were showing us that could have gotten out of control, we've been able to contain it, and at very least get an idea of the scope, right? So we're not out of the woods yet, but as somebody said the other day, there's a glimmer at the end of the tunnel. That means we're still in the tunnel, so we can't lower our guards, right? We have to be cautious and approach this cautiously, intelligently. So what are your thoughts on the reopening process, and what you think should be the next steps in that?
Well, I think that the social distancing thing and the lockdown, if you will, have given us time to come up with other solutions. So the slowing the spreading, or flattening the line, or making sure that our medical systems weren't overrun, I think for the most part we've accomplished that. But it's been a combination of the social distancing, of staying at home, and of the unbelievably phenomenal work that's being done by all of our scientists and all of our doctors and our nurses and all of these creative minds that are out there struggling and working day and night, 24 hours a day to find a solution. So the reality is that a lot of the people that tragically were infected early on might have survived if they had been infected today, because today we have so much more knowledge and so many more options than we did when all of this started. So it's really a combination of two things that are helping us get ahead of this. And so is there going to be a perfect answer? I don't think so. I don't think the world is ever perfect. For that, there's something after, right? Whatever that may be, depending on your beliefs. But given the world we live in, I think that you have to act prudently and plan to move forward. And I, for one, am ready to get dressed up and go back to work. You know, I've had it with my little flip-flops and my rubber band. So I'm ready to go. And I think that is a big part of it, because emotionally is where it starts. You have to decide that you're ready to go back. You have to decide that you're ready to go into the battle that's known as life, or the opportunity that's known as life. So we have to do that in an organized fashion. So we at Cervera are buying the equipment so that the office can be kept sterile. So when you come to Cervera Real Estate, you'll have your little hand sanitizer at the door. You know, we'll have masks available if you need them. We're going to have social distancing appropriately in the offices. So we'll pull out chairs so people can sit together. And we're going to make sure that we take the steps for people to feel safe. But being at home stops feeling safe after a while, starts feeling like you're going to kill somebody, you know? And that's not where we want to be as a society. Being at home doesn't always mean that you're as productive as you should be. And that's not where we want to be as a society. Being at home means hiding from the challenges. And that's not who we are as a society. We are go-getters. We are hardworking people. We are people that confront problems and forge ahead. So we're going to follow the guidelines that are being provided by our leaders. We're also going to have conversations with them, because we're not deaf mutes. And gratefully in this country, your opinion is heard as your vote is heard, and we can contribute to that. So we're gathering information. We're doing our poll, as you know, internally in the company to see where our circle of influence is, how healthy people are, how they're feeling emotionally. Are they ready to come to work? What they need to come to work, what they think their clients need to come to work. And we're going to be delivering thoughtful, carefully presented information to reopen our offices and to let our consumers know, and of course, all of the people that work for us at Cervera, that this is going to be as safe an environment as is humanly possible, and certainly safer than confining yourself as a recluse for the rest of your life or for the next 6 months or for whatever it is. So we have to take steps to get out, to be prudent, but to re-engage in our lives that we love and in our country and our city that we love, and continue to move forward. Be not afraid.
Well, as you said, Alicia, opinions do matter in this country, which makes it an incredible country, and your opinion always matters. So thank you for taking the time to share some of those thoughts with us. Thank you for leadership and for pulling this company through this stage. We're all lined up, excited to come back to work, excited to get back once the order is there. But thank you again for taking the time today and sharing some of your perspective, because as in anything, perspective is everything. So thank you for that perspective. And for anybody who's out there, reach out to Cervera Real Estate if we can answer any of these questions for you. We're here. We've been years. We're very proud of the 50 years we're celebrating this year. And this interview, a conversation with Alicia, is sort of evident of why we've been in business for so long. So thank you again, Alicia, for joining us today.
Thank you, Jesse. And I want to also add that for our guests that are viewing this from outside of the country and outside of the city, that our airport is also getting ready, and that they're taking the necessary steps to sanitize and protect and put the systems in place. So stay on the lookout to see how that's going to happen and how that's going to proceed, so that you can be comfortable that when you get on a plane and travel to Miami, to Fort Lauderdale, to Palm Beach, you're going to be safe when you arrive. So thank you all, and we look forward to all being together again very soon. Thank you, Jesse.
Thank you.